when I got the offer.
And then, okay.
Which I actually cannot remember.
Okay, but it probably was getting to know you sort of thing, because the technical stuff would have all been ticked off. So, and then once they give you the offer, there's the whole fingerprints and that sort of thing, right? Where you get signed up, and they do like a background check to check that you're not a criminal and that sort of thing, and then you get your contract. Did you find getting that contract quite overwhelming, like with the amount of information that was in there and that sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. Understandably, they have to use a lot of legal terminology.
Yes.
So it takes a while. If you're going to read it yourself and try and understand everything that's in there, it can take a while.
If you use like ChatGPT, be like, what does this mean?
My sister is actually like a legal consultant.
Oh, amazing.
She used to be an
Look at you having networks, eh?
Yeah, no. She used to be an attorney.
Okay.
And so I basically just sent it to her, and then she kind of read through and told me, okay, these are the important things to focus on.
Okay.
This is a standard, this is unusual, that type of thing.
Yeah, I remember the first time I got my first contract, and it was like 15 pages long. I'm like, what am I signing away? Like, it seems so hectic. And then also what was really interesting, I don't know if you found this, is that when you get paid your first salary, it's the first time you actually understand tax. Because you're like, this is my cost to company on my contract, and this is how much I'm getting into my
I actually had to go to my supervisor and be like, okay, wait, can you explain what's going on here?
It's a big gap.
Yeah, there's a difference that is unaccounted for.
Can I tell you, it's one of the stupidest things, the stupidest thoughts I think I've ever had. I remember the first time I got my first salary and it came into my account. And my first thought was, oh, do they pay salaries in installments? Because I was like, surely it can't be this low. Because, that tax obviously had a massive effect. And it was definitely a very immersive experience in tax.
Immersive.
But tell me, so you started at your job, and how's that been? So you're working in the health space?
Yes.
And so how has that been? Like that transition, have you found it quite difficult? What have been some of the joys and the sort of, not sorrows, but like the difficulties that you've encountered?
I'd say I probably got quite lucky with the company that I'm at. I've been told by a lot of my fellow employees who have worked at other employees.
Oh, your colleagues from your... Yeah.
There was other companies and then came to Inside. That it's just been extremely easy, the transition. Okay. They really let you like ease into things and take things at your own pace. And if you can handle more work, then they'll let you. If you say, okay, wait, never mind, this is stretching me to
such a great culture.
Someone takes over. Yeah, that's
helps you out or explains something to you. So it's the element where you're not feeling like you're in the deep end.
100%. It really is, especially because even the work they give you, they have a lot of. Like anything that you do, someone else checks as well.
You have to do that though. Hey, like I think even if you are the best of actuaries, everyone's going to make mistakes.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
So it's honestly been so way easier than I was expecting.
Good.
Transitioning from like purely studying to working and studying. Not that it's easy.
it's like relative, right? To this kind of like monster you think it was going to be.
Compared to what I built up in my head about how horrible it was going to be having to work like 8 hours a day and still trying to studying in something way more relaxed than I.
So before we get to the working studying balance, have you found that like the skills that you learned at university, that you've been using them, or has it been like you always feel like you are starting from scratch? I know that some people say, I only really started learning once I started working kind of thing. But have you found that the things that you have learned at university have helped you in that transition? Because I think people sometimes are in between two camps. What would be your view on that?
I'd say definitely stuff that you learn at university that is useful.
Yeah.
But it's just that there's a lot that you learn at university. So a lot of it you don't end up using. At least not, I've only been working for 2 months.
So you can't say for your whole career. No, 2 months.
Yeah. But there definitely have been things that I have used, and there's definitely been a lot that I haven't used.
Yeah.
I'd say because I'm in the health space, I do a lot of IBNR calculations.
Of course,
a lot of the IBNR things, naturally I'm using that.
So round of triangles for the win.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of, I think probably the most useful course so far would be actually professional communication, believe it or not. Because
we did tell you, but none of you believed us.
Yeah. I will say that it is not nearly as intense in the workplace as they make it out at the course at university. But there are a few occasions where you do need to be that pedantic.
Yes, especially like with reports and when you're speaking to clients and that sort of thing.
And that definitely helped a lot.
Yes.
Especially starting out, because you have to send people things and say, okay, well, how do I even start this email? And then I just kind of think back to...
I'm so glad something's been of use.
Yeah. But other than that, technical, like with regards to technical courses, I think ARM has definitely been the most useful.
But that paints the whole picture. Because the connectivity
puts everything together, and a lot of like when you're doing the analysis or looking at reasons for things, and all the ARM stuff come popping back. Yeah, I'd say that's definitely been for me the most useful so far.
I think also something that I realized, I remember when I also started in consultancy when I started working, and initially when I started, I was like, why did I learn all this other stuff at university? Because I'm not using it now. And what I realized is learning all that other stuff shaped the way that I problem solve and the way that I approach something. So it doesn't directly impact the way that I'm doing my work, but indirectly I have a problem solving arsenal which will help me solve these problems. And I think that's something that students don't always get, is that at university, yes, we're teaching you skills, but we're teaching you how to think. And you don't actually know that the way that you're thinking is changing because it happens so gradually. And then that's actually the view that you're taking in and the skill set you're taking into a workplace. And it's difficult to quantify that because it's not so much about understanding distributions. It's just saying, actually, what are the considerations I should be thinking about when looking at this data and the distribution that's underlying it, or the trends or whatever, which is but it's very difficult to quantify that. But you said, obviously, you're in the health space. You are looking to finish off your actuarial exams. And so that means that you're studying and working, which is every young actuarial analyst's burden to bear. How has that been? How are you managing that? Has your company been supportive of that? Yeah, talk to that sort of balance.
Yeah, so again, I guess I've just been very lucky with the company that I'm at. They pretty much everything that you would want in terms of like study leave and reimbursement and support. They have pretty much all of that. So in terms of that, I'm sorted. In terms of trying to find the time and things like that, it is definitely tough. You do have to try and make sacrifices. What I've been trying to do is, because you're now completely self-studying. Well, I suppose you could sign up to do it like at a
but even then, it's still like there's the weight of it is on your shoulders, kind of thing. Like no one's holding your hand.
Yeah. So in my case, I was like, okay, well, I need to finish all the content by a certain point.
Yeah.
And then so I have time to practice.
Yeah.
So I need to know more or less, which chapters I need to do each week, type of thing. So I just found like an old course outline.
Amazing.
Thing,
okay.
UCT somewhere, and I've been trying to follow that.
Yes. But
I am convinced that course outline has been made for full-time students.
Because I'm not doing it.
I'm like 4 chapters behind constantly.
Yeah.
But I'd say it definitely is tough, but it's doable. I think at the moment I probably will be able to finish all the chapters if I keep going at the pace I'm going.
Yeah.
And have like around about a month to just kind of do past papers and have its questions.
Which is important. Yeah.
I think from what I've seen so far, so I'm doing my F100s.
Okay. And are you just writing one this semester?
Yes.
Okay, and you're doing health?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. F101.
Yeah. And so far, it seems like it's going to be a lot like how ARM was.
It's very similar. Yeah, just very sort of honed in on that specific discipline.
Exactly. So because I just did ARM, I still kind of have
that background.
The study methods fresh.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just kind of applying the same strategy.
Yeah, which I think is a good way of going about it. When you aren't studying, I mean, you've spoken about doing past papers. What has been the role of past papers in the way that you study? I think it's an interesting one because some people actually study from past papers. Other people use it to just test the exam technique. Where do past papers sort of sit in that spectrum for you?
So for me, past papers are probably the most important part of the studying, but the problem is you can't really, you shouldn't really be doing the past papers. You don't know
the content.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even though the content is a lot and then the questions that they ask might not even seem like it's using the content.
Yeah.
It is, because like you say, it kind of teaches you a way of thinking and things to consider and putting you in that certain frame of mind. So I tend to try and to learn all the content as well as I can.
Yeah.
Read through everything, make my own summaries, go over my own summaries, then try and answer questions. Because a lot of the time, there's certain questions that you would think they would want, the answer in a particular way, like this is how you're supposed to answer this type of question, this is how you're supposed to think, but then you read the memo or you speak with someone and you realize, oh wait, I didn't even consider this, and this is actually much more important to consider in situations like this. And that happens quite a lot with these ARM style questions, where there are entire sides of the question that you didn't even think
it didn't even occur to you,
that end up being the bulk of what you were actually supposed to consider in a context like that.
Yeah. So I think it's such an interesting thing that you say, because I always say to students, I don't know if you remember me saying this to you guys last year, is that past papers are like, I don't want to say like a holy grail, but like you don't want to touch your past papers until you've done your content, because there's only so many past papers, right? Yeah. And you don't want to look at a past paper question before you actually know your content, because you can never look at that question fresh and actually do it under exam conditions and test yourself. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing I see past papers as being useful for is that they help you connect pieces of content, because every question generally pulls on 3 or 4 chapters, and when you're studying you don't always see the connections between the chapters, you know. And when you see a question and then you read a memo after having attempted it, you're like, oh, okay, so those things are connected. And then in your mind you're like, okay, I knew the content but didn't see it together. Now I've made this connection between the two and I'm building that ecosystem, which I like. You're probably so tired of me saying ecosystem, but like, you're right. But that's literally what you're doing, and that's what I think past papers are for. And obviously testing yourself time-wise and all that sort of thing.
That happened quite a lot actually with that. So I always used to think, do like a chapter or a couple chapters, then do questions on those chapters, and then repeat, and then you do like a big past papers at the end. But it's very difficult to separate the chapters into just questions on that chapter.
So then you're doing a question, you're like, but I haven't learned this yet, or whatever, and then you're a bit demoralized.
Exactly. So I found that getting through as much of the content first, then saving all those questions for at the end, which are not the big picture, is the better way to go about it.
Yeah, it's really helpful, really helpful. And tell me, what are some of the sacrifices that you've had to make in order to balance the work and studying?
So I've actually been very bad at the sacrifices. That's probably why I'm like 4 chapters. But I'm starting to, because I get up quite early for work. So I did that specifically so that I could start work early, end work early.
Yes.
But now I'm realizing I can't just leave my studying for the weekends. I do have to.
You have to do it during the week.
During the week as well, which I was doing before, but just kind of like if I had time after work and wasn't too tired. But I'm realizing that's not enough.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing now is instead when I get up early, because I am freshest in the morning.
Yeah.
So now I'm doing an hour of studying in the morning.
Yeah.
Every morning, or at least trying to.
Yeah.
Before work, and then just ending work a little bit later.
Yeah. What's really nice about that, I had a lot of friends that actually did that as studying technique, and I think, or studying approach, and I think I would do that if I was writing again, is that what's really, from like a motivation perspective, is you get to work and you've already done your studying. And sometimes we all know this, work is a complete dog show, and then you're like, well, like my day was actually madness, and now I still want to study at the end of the day, and like I actually don't have the mental capacity. But if you do it in the morning, it's already done. So regardless of what happens at work, you've done the studying, and there's like an element where that kind of feeds into itself, which I think is really useful.
And I think what's especially nice about it is I can structure my work. I can kind of put what I can move things around.
Yeah.
So the things that I need to be kind of on my toes for and fully concentrating, I can do earlier in the day.
Yes.
And then leave some of the more manual
for afternoon or whatever.
Later in the day. So, but I can't really do that with studying because if you're not like fully in it, it's going to be very difficult.
Or you're just going to have to redo it the next day because you're just going to have so many gaps in your understanding that you might as well just redo it.
Exactly. But with my work, there's a lot of things that you don't really need to like be fully focusing.
Yeah.
You just need doing. You just need to refresh these things.
Yeah, exactly. And tell me, why healthcare?
Why healthcare? So I'd say, that's another question I get quite a lot. I'd say the biggest thing for me was probably it's the type of insurance that I have the most exposure to, and therefore kind of I realize has the most direct impact on people's lives, as opposed to something like life insurance, which honestly I didn't even realize was as common as it is. I don't know. Well, I'm sure everyone or most people have some type of life insurance.
Or awareness of it.
But I, and you never hear about it, or at least I had it.
Yeah.
But like medical aid, pretty much everyone that I interacted with like knew about what medical aid is or has medical aid.
Yeah.
So it can have a much more direct impact on people's lives. We're giving them access to.
Also, this is more frequent from a claim perspective, right? Like, you're going to get sick many, many times. You're only going to die once.
So it
Which is a little bit morbid to say. That's a reality.
So I think that was why it was just a lot more kind of in my face, and therefore I realized in a lot more people's lives, well, a lot more prominent in people's lives.
Yeah.
I feel like I can make a lot more of a difference.
Yeah.
Enough, even though not really, you still kind of feel like a